and I'm here to tell you a little bit about what happens on Braai Day. But before that, I'm just going to tell you that we're doing a series of 4 programs with Food Lovers Market. So every Tuesday around about 5:30, we're going to go live and give you a whole bunch of hints and tips in the kitchen, some nice ideas. So please, if you have any questions, ask questions. If you don't ask, you don't get the answers. It's that simple. So I'm going to go through a whole lot of things here. There's a whole bunch of little bits and pieces about braaiing, Braai Day, how to go through different meats and all of that. So we're going to get started. And yeah, just obviously everyone knows what Braai Day is. Braai Day, in fact, is Heritage Day. And Heritage Day, we celebrate all South Africans and all different cultures. And it's turned into Braai Day because everyone just braais, because that's a South African thing. So let's get cracking. So the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to show you different types of braai. So most of you would have a braai at home. So I'm very excited to show you this thing, which is my indoor braai. And this is going to emulate your braai at home. So we've got coals and things in there, and we're going to put some stuff on there. If you don't have a braai at home, then obviously you can do something like a skillet, which I've got over here. So a skillet is literally just a cast iron pan, and we put our stuff on top of there, and it gives it a really nice sort of charred, smoky effect as well. And then lastly, we've also got these sort of things. So if you people don't know what a cob oven is, this is it. Okay, so it's very similar to a braai. What is nice about it, it's got a lid on it, and you literally put all of your bits and pieces on the bottom there, so you can put coals in, and then you put this thing on the top. And you can also do this at home, you can also do it indoors, but please people, don't set your house alight. You can put a whole bunch of stuff in here, but yeah, if you've got fire alarms and all that kind of stuff, make sure it's off, because things are going to get smoky. And that's the best thing about a braai, is the smokiness and the flavors and the little bit of charred bits that come out of a braai that actually makes it what a braai is. Okay, let me just move this. So we're going to start off by going through a couple of different meats. So today we are doing some really typical South African meat. We're going to cover ostrich. So I've got some really nice little pieces of ostrich here. I've got some sirloin steak, and then I've got a little bit of chicken that we're going to cook. And I'm going to, let's call it a ballantine it, I'm going to stuff it. And then later on in the program, I'm going to actually show you how to smoke this chicken, which you can do at home. I'm going to show you 2 different ways of doing it. You can do it on the braai, which is a bit of a makeshift way, and also at home, which is an even more makeshift way. Okay, so we're going to start off by looking at the different meats. So I've mentioned sirloin and ostrich. Obviously you can do fillet, and you can do like any types of meat. There's rump. So rump and sirloin are very similar. So the difference between sirloin and rump is obviously sirloin is a little bit more sinewy, but it's got more flavor than rump. And fillet has got no sinew at all, so it's a really tender meat. And obviously fillet's a little bit more expensive. So the sirloin you can buy at Food Lovers Market. I think it's 99 rand. 99 rand, 99 cents. I'm sounding like a Zoom here. So that's pretty much what you can buy it for, and it's actually quite a cheap price. So go out and get some of that today. So I'm going to start off just by showing you how to cut meats, firstly, and also to test meat. So if you take a piece of meat, you'll see that it's obviously quite spongy. So this is what we call blue or very rare. So it hasn't even been cooked. Well, in fact, it's raw. So let's just call it raw. So there's different ways of testing meat. So if I take my hand like this, and I hold my thumb on my finger, and I squeeze that portion of my hand, that texture is what rare would be. Okay, then I go to my next finger, that's medium rare, that's medium, and that's well done. So try that. And as you go along, your well done is going to be hard, and obviously your meat, your rare or medium rare, is going to be quite soft. So that's a really good indication of how long to cook your meat for and how to test it, and yeah, what you're looking at the end of it. So one thing about sirloin is you always got to cut against the grain, and generally the grain runs it across that way and also with the fat. So what we want is a nice thick slice of meat like that, keeping the fat on. Okay, and what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to show you a quick marinade, and then we're going to put that into the marinade, and that's just going to sit for a while before we cook it. Now, there's a couple of different marinades you can do. The first one is like a really simple one, which really actually goes quite well with chicken. So all it is a little bit of lemon juice. I'm taking some lemon juice there. and I'm going to add some sweet chili sauce and literally just mix that up. And that's going to give you this sort of sweet, sour, chili kind of taste. And then with any of these marinades, people, please, that's one thing you need to do is you need to season it. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of salt in there, a little bit of pepper, and you can add any herbs and spices that you'd like to in this, as you wish. So I've just got a little bit of Cajun spice I'm going to add to that. Nice and easy. And that's one marinade. So that's just a quick, simple marinade you can use. And we're actually I'm going to put this on the chicken a little bit later. So I'm going to put that aside. Then I'm going to show you a super quick, easy one with all your stuff that you find at home. So we've got Mrs. Ball's South African chutney, all gold South African chutney. We've got some Worcester sauce, so you can either use Worcester sauce or I quite like using soy sauce, pretty much the same sort of thing. A dash of olive oil, a little bit of chili sauce. You can use any kind of chili sauce, you can even use chili flakes. I quite like this one. And then lastly, some red wine. Red wine, best to drink while you're braaiing, otherwise you can stick it in your marinade as well. Okay, so let me put this together. So I'm going to take about, let's take about a quarter cup of chutney. The thing with these marinades is when you're using these, there's obviously quite a lot of sugar content in here. So we're going to spread this a little bit liberally. If you do put it over the braai, it is going to give it a little charred flavor. Okay. Then tomato sauce, and this is always how you whack out tomato sauce. And there you go. So a nice mixture, probably about half and half tomato sauce, or you can do 2/3 tomato sauce and 1/3 chutney. Then we're going to add some soy sauce. Let's just add some of that. So probably about 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. And then a little bit of chili sauce. And that chili sauce is not going to be too burny because a lot of that is going to just be a marinade and might burn off your meat anyway. So don't worry about putting that, not too much of that in. Then lastly, again, salt and pepper. Right, and that's going to make a seriously nice marinade. Just mix that up a little bit. And then the last ingredient, which is going to give it a little bit of runniness, is we're going to bomb some wine in. There we go. Okay, and that's your marinade. So if you go into the shops and you look at all these bottled stuff, you can laugh because you just made exactly the same thing. Right, just like that. And that smells delicious. So what I'm going to do is take these, and I'm just going to put them into the bottom of a bowl. I'm going to put some marinade on that. And then we'll just let that sit for a little bit. Also, I'm not salting my meat. That's another thing, people, is when you are cooking meat, don't salt it before you put it on the braai because that's going to extract all of the moisture from the meat and you don't want that. So there's some meats that you do salt if you're going to cook them quickly, but things like your fillet steak, all your beef cuts, rather not do that. Yes, question.
Chef Brett, what meats do you salt?
Okay.
What do you suggest salting and which ones don't you salt?
Okay, so this is the one you salt. So let me show you. This is ostrich. Okay, so ostrich is ideal for salting. So the best way to do ostrich is to put a little bit of salt in it, just like that. Okay, and a little bit of pepper, and then literally a dash of olive oil. But the other thing is we're not leaving this to lie around for too much, for too long. Okay, so I'm just going to put it in there. Just going to add a dash of olive oil in there, and then I'm just going to put this straight on the braai, and that's literally what you do for ostrich. And I'll show you how beautifully this comes out. It's actually really nice. Just salt both sides. So I'm going to put this onto the braai, and we've got a braai, nice little braai tong. Guys, please make sure that when you use braai tongs, you don't use a plastic one. Okay, it's going to melt. And it's not a tong. A braai tong is what ladies wear around the pool, not on your braai. Okay. So we're going to put this onto this braai here. And I'm just going to let that sit for a little bit. It's nice and hot. And then we'll see how that cooks a little bit. I'm also, that's another thing I want to show you. Let me show you quickly. If you're testing your braai, to test your braai, hold your hand over it for literally about 4 or 5 seconds. If you can hold it over there for 5 seconds, it's okay. If you can't hold it there for 5 seconds, it's way too hot. Okay. So I'm just going to put that over like that, let that sit for a little bit. Okay. So other meats that you would salt beforehand, chicken you can salt beforehand, but most of the stuff that you're salting beforehand you're actually going to cook straight away, like I've done with the ostrich. Right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to show you how to do a chicken ballotine. So I've got a piece of chicken breast here, and I've got some bacon. So I'm going to take this and we're just going to cut the tenderloin off. So those of you who don't eat red meat, this is perfect. And I'm just going to slice this through. So I'm not going to slice it all the way through. I'm just going to make a nice little pocket like that. And then I've got some really nice basil pesto. Just going to shove some basil pesto in there. I'm going to close that up. And then I'm going to season this. This is where the salt comes in. A little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. Don't need to do too much. And whenever you're doing something like a full chicken or something that you're wrapping chicken in, you need to season it, because once you've put everything together, you can't actually season it again after that. So I'm going to put these 2 bits of bacon down like that. And we're just going to wrap this chicken over there like that. If you want to, you can use 2 little toothpicks and actually skewer that. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to put this straight over the braai, just like that. In fact, I'm going to show you, let's do this one on here. So I'm going to put this on here, just heat that up a little bit. And then we're going to do it on this thing. So you can see the difference between the griddle pan and the braai. Okay, so this you can get at home. You can put it on your gas braai. We've got induction here, which works quite nicely. But a gas braai is ideal for doing that. Okay, so I'm going to put this on, and you'll see this is going to go quite nice and quickly. And you want these lines to come through on your griddle pan. That's why you're doing it. So I'm just going to make sure it doesn't stick too much. Even though you oil it, it might still stick a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to let that sit, and once we've done that and cooked that a little bit, we're going to take it and smoke it. Okay, so let's just turn the ostrich over quickly. So you can see that ostrich is cooking quite nicely there. Also, just to check the thickness of your ostrich. Obviously, the thicker it is, the longer it's going to cook. And the thing about ostrich is you don't want it to cook through. Ostrich is always served best when it's slightly rare, so you can actually taste the flavor of the ostrich coming through as well. Okay. Right. Then the other thing we're going to do is look at doing some veggies on the braai. So just brown this guy a little bit here. Turn that over quickly. You can see those beautiful lines coming through from the braai. So you'll get the same effect on one of these griddle pans as you would on a braai. Okay. So we'll just let that rest and cook a little bit. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is show you a couple of things that we can do with veggies. So I've got a marrow here. And marrows are really nice to do on the braai as well, because you get that really nice taste. The braai will make them nice and soft, and you can actually season them with whatever you want to. So what we want to do is cut these quite thick. So I'm just going to cut the end off that, and then we're going to cut these into probably about a centimetre thick slice, just like that. Okay. And just be careful with this, because if you're holding your marrow like this, your knife can slip. So just be very careful about how you cut those. Okay, there we go. So we've got 4 nice pieces of marrow there. What I like doing with this one is actually putting a little bit of olive oil on here, and then we can add something like thyme or marjoram. Actually works really well. So I'm going to take this guy off the braai now. I'm going to put it onto this one. So this is going to indirect heat. So that's another thing, people. If you're looking at braai, let me show you here. If you can just take a look at the braai itself. Okay, you'll see all the coals are on the one side. Okay, so when you're doing chicken, don't put chicken over the coals directly, because it's actually going to sear it, and it's going to cook the outside and brown the outside way before it actually cooks the chicken through. So I'm going to put the meats back on here, and then I'm just going to leave the chicken there to cook. This thing is cooking a little bit slowly, but it's just showing you how to do that. Okay, so let's just clean this off a little bit. Okay, so now I'm just going to put some veggies on here. Add a little bit more oil onto there. Oops. Okay, and we're going to put these things straight on, just like that. And that's going to give it a really nice braai flavor. I'm going to season it a little bit, just with some salt. I've got some oregano here. I'm just going to put a little bit of oregano over the top. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of oil on it as well. And that's a really nice little option to go with your whole vegetarian story. Another thing that we can do is work with asparagus. So I've got some asparagus here. And asparagus also goes really nicely on the braai. It's just how you do it. So the first thing you do is just take the tails off the hard ends of the asparagus. And we're going to blanch this slightly. So I've got a pot of water here. I'm just going to throw those in. They're going to sit in there for probably about 3 or 4 minutes. And the reason we do this is I'm going to wrap it in pancetta. And once you've wrapped it in pancetta and you put that on the braai, obviously the pancetta is going to cook quite quickly because it's got a high fat on it. And you don't want the asparagus to be raw while the pancetta is cooked. So we're literally just blanching it for like probably about 2 minutes or so. Okay. Right, so I'm just going to stoke this fire a little bit more. Move these things around. Sorry. Get the coals going. There you go. Okay, that's looking good. Perfect. Right, I'm just going to leave that for a bit. Now another thing you can do, if you've got one of these things at home, there's a quick way of turning it into a weaver. So you need to have the right equipment, but yeah, there's an Audie Murphy kind of makeshift thing. You literally just do that. Okay. What it's going to do is going to trap the heat inside there, and this is another way of smoking it as well. So I'm going to show you how to smoke that using this pot. Okay. If you look here quickly again, you'll see that these lines are probably coming through quite nicely. Look how beautiful that looks. There you go. Nice and easy. So working it on these griddle pans is actually really cool. And this makes, I mean, just don't be scared about charring things a little bit. That charring on the braai gives it that really nice smoky flavor. So it's fantastic to work with. Okay, so once we've done the asparagus, we can wrap them in pancetta, just like that. Everyone see that? Okay. So all I've done is I've taken 2 little pancetta strips, wrapped it in there, and then I'm actually going to stick it on, in fact let's put it on this braai. So add it onto there, and you'll see how that cooks nicely. Okay. Right, so let's get on to doing some smoking. I'm going to take these guys off quickly. So these are cooked really nicely. When they start bending like this, you know that they're cooked. Nice and soft, look at that, that's beautiful. Take that off. There you go. Look at that, delicious. Okay. So here's a trick. I'm going to take this ostrich off, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. So that should be pretty much done. And just how to slice it up nicely, so that looks perfect. Look how nicely that's sort of browned. Okay. Let's just show you how this should be served.
Chef Brett?
Yes.
Can you just tell some more people who have tuned in what exactly you're cooking?
Okay, so we're doing a bit of a Heritage Day demonstration. So we're cooking a whole bunch of things. The one is this over here is a chicken ballotine. We're doing some asparagus with pancetta. I've just cooked some ostrich, just to show you about how to cook ostrich and how to serve ostrich. And then we're going to do a little bit of in fact, we've just marinated some sirloin steaks. So if you look at the sirloin steaks there. And we'll cook those up a little bit later. We'll just take these asparagus out. And then we're going to show you how to smoke chicken with rooibos. Either on the braai in a weaver at home, or literally on your stove top at home. Okay, as I said before, be careful to switch off your smoke alarms. Okay, so this is the ostrich. So when you take the ostrich like this, you have to let meat rest. So I'm going to let that sit for about 5 minutes or so. The reason we let meat rest is that you can see here that it's starting to leak a little bit. Okay, so there's so much moisture in meat. What happens when you heat it up? that moisture expands, and that moisture tries to jump out. So what we do is we obviously brown meat first, a little bit, which seals it in. So you've heard about sealing meat. So you just brown it on a hot skillet or on the braai. You literally put it over one side, turn it over, and that seals it. Once it's sealed, it contains all of that moisture in the meat. And then when it heats up, that expands. So what you want to do is let it cool down so all that moisture and all those nice nutrients and flavors stay in that meat that you've just cooked. And then you can slice it. Okay. So I'm just going to turn this chicken over nicely. Look how nicely that's doing. Okay. And this one's also doing pretty well. There we go. Okay. So let's go on to smoking. So all of you may have, if you're of the older generation, you will have loose tea bags in your home. If you're of the younger generation, you will have, sorry, tea leaves, tea bags, you'll have tea bags. But you can use either. So it's difficult to get loose tea leaves. If you can find them, they make a really nice smoking facility. You can also use things like wood chips, like cedar wood or maple wood or anything that does, in fact, wine barrels. They take wine barrels and they grind those up and you can use that, those oak shavings. Okay, so I'm going to take this off quickly and I'm just going to show you how to do this on a braai, which you can do on your Weber. So what you do is you take a little bit of tin foil, just like that, and you put it straight on the braai. Don't use your fingers like I do, I've got seasoned chef hands. And you take a little bit of this rooibos and you literally just put it on that. So this needs to be quite a hot braai. Okay, let's put it on like that. And you'll see that starts cooking. So what I'm going to do then is take this and I'm going to put that back on there. And that should be hot enough to start it smoking. And when you start smoking, you do need to put a lid on. So we're going to put that lid on and leave it like that. Okay, the other thing is if you don't have a Weber and you have a pot at home, you can smoke your chicken. So I'm going to show you how to do that quickly. Let me just put this one on here. So there's my pot. I'm going to turn it on high. So I'm putting it onto about sort of 8 or 9. Then I'm going to take a little ceramic dish or anything like that and put it at the bottom of the pot. Once I've done that, I'll take my tea leaves. I can open my tea leaf bags, put it around there. Put that there. And we're just going to sit for a little bit. Then you're going to take whatever you're doing, what you're smoking. So you can see here, if you focus here, you'll see this is smoking quite nicely. Yeah. So focus on that. You can see all the smoke coming off that little tin foil thing. And it's obviously, if it's sitting over this, that's how you would smoke. So I'm going to take the same piece of chicken and another chicken. So this one's sort of half-washed. I'm going to take some of these pieces and put them into the bowl. I'm going to put this in my pot. And you put the lid on. There's your smoker. Nice and easy. Okay, so you've got this really beautiful, look at this, look how nicely that is smoking. It's fantastic. Okay. Does smell very good. Okay. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to take my ostrich, we're going to slice it. Just slice it a little bit. We're going to put this across the grain. You'll see that's really nice, nicely cooked inside. It's not completely rare, but you can see there's a nice redness to it. I'm going to put this on the plate, and I've actually got a mushroom sauce that we're going to serve this with. So I'm going to take this, and we'll just stick it over here. Just like that. Just a little bit more. So that's cooked through nicely. This one you can see, obviously it being a little bit thicker, it's a little bit rarer. So you need to judge exactly what sort of how cooked you want your meat. Okay, so put that onto a plate. There we go. Right, and I'm going to take our smoking asparagus. Plates as well. Right, and then you can see how this is smoking. Take a look at that. Look at that smoke sitting there. Okay. So that actually works better. The braai. Okay. And then once you get to that point, you can actually turn this around. Right, and that's just going to sit and smoke really nicely in there. Okay, so here's my braai day stuff. So we've done this literally in the space of about 30 seconds. Sorry, 30 minutes. 30 seconds is a little bit, yeah. And I'm just going to take a little bit of mushroom sauce that we can put onto that. And what is important is when you're serving ostrich like this, either you can salt it a little bit more, because remember your salt is only on the outside, and put a little bit more black pepper on, which I like doing, and that just brings out the flavors a little bit. Okay, there we go. So there's our braai day plate for you. Nice and easy, bit of ostrich with some asparagus and pancetta and some grilled courgettes. So if anyone has any further questions, please post on our Facebook site. We'll respond to those questions. You can also go to Stir Crazy's recipe page. We've got a whole bunch of nice Heritage Day recipes for you. So take a look at Stir Crazy Cooking. And we'll also go into Food Lovers Market. A lot of these things will be posted on there. You can review it, and we'll show you a bunch of other tricks as well. So wait for next week, 5:30, same time, Tuesday. We'll see you then. Thanks for watching.
Awesome. Can we have one last look at your smoking?
Yeah, there's my smoking there.
There we go.
Okay, beautiful. And then I'll show you the other smoking as well. So there you go, that one. So you can see how when the smoke just makes it so much browner. It's beautiful. Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching.
That was awesome.